I think achieving higher education is always something to celebrate. That's the way I was raised.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
The Senate stays red. Supreme Court stays red. How much is going to happen?
I think Biden's going to add those 3 seats onto the Supreme Court, try to balance it out.
If the Senate...
If I understand it correctly.
Yeah, sure. But he has to get the Senate blue to do that. If the Senate stays red, that's never going to happen. What would he do then?
I don't know. He's got to... this is the one thing I think that he seems to be good at, that I'm hearing people talk about him. He's really good at talking to people that are not on the same side as him. And that the thing about him is he comes across like so normal, you know? Like even all his tweets, and I don't know whether he actually does the tweeting or not, right, on this Twitter or whatever, but all of his comments are like, stay calm, folks, keep the faith. He sounds so calm, and whether that's him or not him, he's still giving out that energy. And so how could you not want to meet someone that comes across with kind of this like olive branch, the way he comes across?
Sure.
How could you want to not meet? I mean, that's like communication 101. If you come at them and try to beat them up, they're not going to want to work with you. But if you say, hey, this is who I am, can we work this out in this kind of calm manner? I think he has a good chance of doing that. You know, and I think when you take Trump out of the picture with his kind of like extreme way of responding to everything, that possibly the Republicans, I think they might change the face of their... I'm really curious to see if the Republicans are going to stay the same.
It's a good question.
If they're going to kind of lower that extreme kind of attitude. I mean, they got to show that, right? They got to show that because they had a leader that was doing that.
Yeah.
Now that that leader's gone, who are they going to become? And I'm really curious to see what happens. I think that's going to be really interesting.
Sure. So there might be a refutation of the Trump ideology, possibly is what you're saying.
Yes. I think so. I think there's a see that's not going to work for them.
Well, given that they almost won the election, they got 48%, they retained control of the Senate, and they grew in House seats, which no one predicted at all. Is that likely?
I didn't hear that last part.
The Senate is red. It stayed red, didn't flip. There was not a massive landslide against Trump as predicted at all. The world news is saying that. In fact, the English newspapers are talking about how they're disgusted with the Americans because they didn't refute him massively. They gained House seats, and 48% of the country voted for him. Why would people refute Trump when they actually did marginally well?
I guess first of all, I don't think all the people that vote for their reps are voting for Trump, or voting for their senators or voting for Trump. I think they're voting for a certain ideology. And here's the thing about Republican ideology, it hasn't always been like this. It's just changed in the last 20 years. If you look back at Reagan and Bush, that Republican ideology was different. They've really gone to an extreme kind of right, conservative, this kind of fundamental... I don't even think Trump believes in half of these kind of extreme Christian ideas. I don't even think he believes that. I think
sure.
But all of that, I just think it's gonna calm down. I think that we had this leader who has pumped that kind of energy up, and if you have leadership, it's like a top-down thing. If you have leadership, it's kind of this calm, mellow, methodical kind of way of leading, I think it's going to change the tone. Now, how much is it going to change? I don't know. We're not going to know. But I don't think Republicans are going to it's still the House is still, they didn't win the House, but
No, they didn't, but they picked up seats, and everybody said that wasn't going to happen. And everybody said it was going to be a landslide, and that didn't happen either. So we have some massive predictions that were just really wrong, to the point that global news is going, what the hell's going on, America? That's significant.
Well, hopefully his personality is going to be able to work with these people. I don't want to see him not be able to get anything done because everyone's against him. I don't know. Honestly, I didn't think Biden was going to win. I thought Trump was going to win.
I thought Trump was going to win too.
Okay, and I said that to my partner. I go, I don't think Biden's going to make it. I have this bad feeling. And I was like, well, maybe America needs to have another person for 4 years. It's a terrible person for them to realize that this country belongs to them. Because I think Americans are apathetic. I think Americans have been apathetic.
Yeah.
We're like, sometimes we're like spoiled children here. We have everything. Even people that have less have more than other countries. And that there's a part of me that feels like, you know, I said to her, I said, I'm never going to not be involved again. I never want to see Trump again. I never want us to go through that ever again. And so what will I do different this time? I've been like an environmental activist for a while, but what will I do different, like politically? You know, my students say the problem is that we only have a two-party system. We should have more parties.
I agree.
You do agree with that?
I totally agree. In the rest of the modern planet in democracies does it that way. They do not do the two-party system, and in fact, most of the world in the modern era looks down on the American system of electing things. I mean, if you talk to British reporters, they think it is dumb beyond belief that we have an electoral college and the way things are elected here. Europe thinks it's really stupid. And it's really hard to justify when this has happened twice. So, we have a democracy that works, but the guy that people wanted doesn't necessarily get to be elected. Most of the planet doesn't think that makes any sort of sense and views it as nutbag insane. And yet that system's still here.
So it sounds like they want it to go away. Now, I'm not a political...
Yeah, most of I read a lot of English newspapers, and they were saying, yeah, Biden won, but you said soul of the nation. You said massive refuting of this. Didn't happen. So what the hell's going on, America? That's the English newspaper, and that's been covered in France, Germany, Africa, Scotland, Japan. Most of the planet is going, you were supposed to massively push back against this guy, and you didn't. And you voted, and he almost won twice in a row. Well, it's almost like America's actually racist. That's what they're saying. Is that fair?
Absolutely it is. America's totally racist.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. If you look at what racism is and you look at what this country is founded on, I mean, my God, we enslave people so we can make money.
And then
we look at where you can, I mean, in a genocide of Native Americans, even before that. I mean, those things have happened in other countries, right? So we're not the only country that's ever done that.
Sure.
However, the fact that we haven't made amends for that, you know, making a law and saying, creating civil rights and affirmative action, all those things is great and good, but until we really, as a country, look at what we did and how people still suffer under those old beliefs, we are racist. I'm a racist, and I try to be as anti-racist as I can, but I still have white privilege.
Well, you're a Californian, and you're very progressive, and that's awesome.
Well,
that's truly awesome. But I talk to younger people too. I'm 43. I talk to people in their 20s, and they go, America this, America that. America's refuting that. And I go, well, half of America didn't refute that twice in a row, basically. So can we say that America is all these progressive values and decency when the analogy I had is, you remember in ancient Scotland, they used to paint their face blue?
right.
So what if I painted 48% of you blue? And I go, you're blue, and you go, don't call me blue. I'm not blue. I'm 52% not blue. Is anyone going to buy that, or are they going to think you're half blue? That's what the world's saying. And what would you say to the planet that goes, damn, half of your fellow Americans voted for the bigot twice in a row? How do we explain that to reasonable allies in Europe?
I don't really have an answer for you. Other than to say, at least with this new administration, they're going to start addressing this, but it's going to take a long time. And people have to want to. And the first thing that I learned about doing anti-racist work is to start to care about someone that doesn't look like you.
Sure.
When you can start to care, and when you listen to people, listen to your brothers and sisters that don't look like you, and you listen to their stories, then you realize that you guys aren't that different, but what they're going through is something you can't experience, and so you get behind them and support them and listen to them. I mean, I think it's I'm a communication, that's what I study. So I think communication is key. It's all relational. If we can work, but it starts 1-to-1.
Sure.
And you have to know.
Sure.
I didn't know about my white privilege until my good black friend in graduate school pointed out how she walked through the world, and I was like, oh, that doesn't happen to me.
Sure. Sure.
You know, I didn't know. How do
Sure.
I know if no one says what their story is? And then
Sure.
it's one thing to read it. It's another thing to hear it. If Marcus, you said to me as a brown
Sure.
man,
Sure.
this is what my experience is.
Sure. Sure.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's in here in California. If you and I went to Tennessee, how many people are we going to walk into? They're going to go, I'm aware of my white privilege. Or Kentucky, or Louisiana, or Michigan, or Montana, or you name it. It's about 35, 45 states where,
What do you think we should do?
well, I'm only doing the interviews. You can't get me. That's the third person who goes, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I go, no, I'm only doing the interviews. I'm only here to ask questions and ask probing questions and see what people think. I got my own opinions, but that's not what it's about.
I think that we have to just keep standing in what we believe in, but we have to try to at least extend the olive branch to some degree.
Sure.
But what I won't do is I won't bend over, and I won't pretend that this is okay for what's happening.
Straight up. I totally agree with that. Straight up. Yeah.
I'm holding my breath.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to do this ever again. I'm not going to agree with this. I'm not going to say, oh, that's okay. No, it's not okay.
Absolutely, it's not. I'm just concerned about the rest of the country that we have to live under the laws of. Recently, the U.S. Supreme Court, we had a ban here in California on high-capacity magazines for assault rifles. That was struck down by the Supreme Court. So we don't get to have the gun protection laws we want. And until the Senate flips, there's nothing we can do about that. That is the law of the land. We're also not able to prevent cruelty to ducks. There's a dish called foie gras, where they overly stuff the ducks. It's cruel. That was shut down by the federal government. So we also have...
in California, though. Is it in...
Yes, but it passed in California, but then the Ninth Circuit shuts it down and the Supreme Court backs that up. So that's twice where we've had laws that are for California values refused by the federal government, and until the Senate changes, there's nothing we get to do about it. We just have to live with it. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me mad. And when I thought about that they just elected that person or appointed that person to the Supreme Court whose first project might be to try to take away the Marriage Equality Act, I was like, you can't give people rights and take them away. You can't do that. You can't do that without a reaction. And I think that's what's happening. Is like, I think people like me have had those values, but I'm like going, I'm not going to just stand back. I'm not going to be a bystander.
Oh, I hear you. And
in the middle states, I don't know the answer to that. I wish I could give you an answer, but I don't know.
I've heard people here say, well, we have to hope that Joe Biden will be able to reach out to them and somehow convince them that they were wrong or shift them more to a progressive direction. And one of the things I ask is, the U.S. Census conducts demographic studies across America. They have said that up until the year 2045, or roughly when NASA plans on having a base on Mars, 35 to 45 states will every single year from now up to 2045 get older, whiter, more conservative, less diverse, less pro-LGBTQ. So what they're talking about is that immigrants are no longer moving to the interior of the country. Young people are leaving. LGBTQ people don't feel comfortable there. And so what happens is you have this hardcore, old, white, conservative, no liberals around to challenge them demographic trend that's in 45 states, and that will not change according to the U.S. Census until the year 2045 or 25 years from now. So what if in America this trend of Trump supporters only continues for another 2.5 decades? Thoughts, feelings?
It's not acceptable.
But we can't do anything about it unless we flood them with Californians.
That's what I feel like, that in federally that we need to take a stand. I mean, why should the KKK even be part of our allowed?
Yes,
period.
Exactly.
When I remember I was in grad school and I learned that I'd moved here from the coast, and I learned that there was a KKK chapter in Clovis, I was like, why?
That's Clovis, folks.
Yeah.
We Fresnans know well about Clovis.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yeah, those fools riding around in their trucks with their Confederate flag. Okay, I'm gonna say right here. I just want to say to you, guess what? You lost the war.
And you also lost Fresno. We've gone liberal 2016, 2018, 2020, and I am glad to say a lot of those ignorant, racist, not nice people don't do that as much because they get their ass beat now. Now, I don't support violence,
right.
but kind of glad that we don't. I was born and raised. I'm 43. I saw it all. A lot of those people don't do that as much anymore or as big and bold because they know they'll get beat.
Good.
I don't encourage violence, but I'm glad they ain't doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's more also than socially is going on. I think that there has to be policies about our environment, and I think that in some ways might be our first priority.
Well, let me ask you about that. So, Gavin Newsom said America's 30 years behind California. And he was talking about how we had our Donald Trump moment in the 1990s. Very racist, 187 language. And he goes, but, we went through that. That's 30 years ago. Now, recently, Gavin Newsom criticized both the Democrats and the Republicans because they cannot move on climate change legislation while California is literally burning down to the ground. Donald Trump accused Joe Biden in the last debate of not being for fracking. And then Joe Biden said, I'm for fracking, I'm for fracking. Who the hell said I wasn't for fracking? I'm for fracking. I love fracking. So the good politician is for fracking, which is horrible to the environment, exacerbates climate change while California is burning to the ground. And that's the reasonable, decent guy? Thoughts, feelings?
I don't agree with him on that. If it were up to me, I want Alexandria, I want AOC. I want it that extreme.
Yeah, but why should we have faith when both candidates are saying frack baby frack while California is burning? Why should Californians have faith in that leadership?
Because there are more things than just that. I do think it is the most important thing. Sometimes I think California should become its own nation. Sometimes I think that.
What? What did you say? What? One more time?
I think that. I said that to my partner.
No, what did you say?
California should just become its own nation.
We were talking about problems at the federal level. I was explaining real situations. We went from I don't know to I guess the only answer is we become our own nation. Interesting that you say that, especially since our governor says nation state all the time. And 47.5% of Californians, according to Reuters Ipsos 2017, also said they support that idea. Really? The news reported it as 1/3. That's not true. 1/3 supported it and 15.7% said I'm willing to think about it, which is 48%. Almost half. News didn't report that. They go, well, if 1/3's for it, it must be 2/3 against. That is not what Reuters asked. They asked, are you for it, against it, or unsure? There was almost 17% who said they're unsure. We're at almost half of Californians. February 2017, according to Reuters Ipsos, said, let's go. How do you feel about that?
It's kind of exciting and scary. I don't know. I think California could totally stand on its own.
What? Could you say that one more time?
I think what?
I'm just excited to hear it. Hey, I'm meeting the public. I'm having a good time.
I think it could stand.
I had too much coffee. Forgive me.
Okay.
No, what?
No, I mean, I think it could. I mean, we make tons of money here. California, we are the leaders. I think we're the leaders in the nation in terms of a state of how much money we make.
Yep.
And we're progressive, but we also, this is a red pocket. We're talking in the red pocket here.
Fresno's barely blue. Barely blue. Hey, like 55, 45. I was born in here. We have to fight for everything we've gained.
Right.
I'm not acting like we're one and it's safe. Right. Bakersfield, you're next. But yeah. So, the interesting about that study from Reuters Ipsos was they didn't match the demographics in the survey to the demographics of California. They overcounted people who were Caucasian and over 65 and undercounted Latinos under 30. When we actually matched the demographics of California in 2017 to that survey, it goes from 47.5 to 55% of Californians said they were open to thinking about secession. Brexit passed with a 52% vote threshold. Thoughts, feelings?
Okay, so what you're saying is when they change the look of the demographics, so more brown people are for secession.
Over half, and we basically had Reuters Ipsos 55% said they were willing to look into this. Brexit seceded with 52% by international legal standards, meaning we already had the vote threshold in 2017, February.
Wow. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. That's like...
I don't know, yeah.
That's like it's kind of a scary, weird thing to think about. And what would that mean?
Well, it would mean
that... What would that mean with how we would interact with the rest of the country?
Well, I think we'd still trade. We're dependent on trade. 1 in 7 or 1 in 5 jobs is related to trade and moving goods from Asia to America. So we can't afford to cut ties with America. But we could make it where when we ban cruelty to animals, it's not overturned. When we have gun laws, it's not overturned. We don't have to worry about the Supreme Court saying ICE can harass the hell out of DACA people. We don't have to worry about them removing the right for LGBTQ to get married. We don't have to worry about them removing our clean air smog pollution ruling. We just wouldn't have to worry about any of that anymore. Would that be a sign of relief?
You are yes. Like it sounds.
It would
like
be a sign of relief. Did you hear that?
Utopia here.
What?
Utopian.
If we just get to do the laws as we voted them, things would be awesome. Is that what you're saying?
Well, hey, I'm against factory farming. There's a lot of things. I'm
Yeah.
for all those things you said. I'm very Californian now.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what I think about that. I mean, I just heard Gavin Newsom, I think you say by 2050 he wants us to be fossil fuel free.
Yes, he did. Yeah. And he's able to do that.
Everyone's like going crazy about that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I hear you. I have a car that's not a hybrid.
Sure.
I
Me
have
too.
A Subaru.
Yeah.
So I would have to change. But if it means that people could breathe and live, like what does it matter? I mean, I keep thinking about how much longer, like I said, how much longer am I going to be on the planet? Shouldn't I be thinking about what I'm leaving behind?
Well, that's exactly. Gavin. Yeah.
Doing as a human
Yes.
being? I mean, I don't even
Yes.
have kids.
Yes.
I have no kids.
Yes.
So I don't even have
Me neither.
But
Me neither.
I need to be thinking about that.
But you have a brain
It's
and
the
two
right-
eyes.
It's the right thing
Yes,
to do.
absolutely. AOC wrote out a quote saying it's really sad that at the last presidential debate there wasn't almost anything on climate change and the two of them argued about fracking. Gavin Newsom retweeted that tweet and go, yeah, California's burning down and the Democrats and the Republicans are still debating on if climate change is real while we're literally burning to the ground. What the hell? And then he launched the legislation you're saying because he felt he was never going to get anything done at the federal level. And what he was saying is it's basically up to us in California to do what needs to get done because we can't trust the Dems or the Republicans. You literally just saw that recently. Was he right? Is he wrong?
I'm sure he's right. I'm sure he's right.
We can't rely on America to...
Listen, I don't think, look it, I'm for Biden and Harris.
Okay. Hold up the sign to the camera.
I'm for them. However, I voted for Bernie Sanders, and I am a true progressive. But I didn't want Trump to be in power again.
Sure.
And so that's what it is. And just like you said, maybe we do need a third or fourth party.
Sure.
But we have to change the way we think. We live in this like binary world. Republican, Democrat, that's the way we've been trained to think, is that that's the only option.
Sure.
Which is a lie. It's
Sure.
not a lie. And so I don't know. I don't think we're gonna figure it out, in the next 4 years. But we need to start having that conversation. I'd love to have a Green Party. I mean, I don't even know that much about the Green Party, other than they were like pro-environment.
I can hook you up. I know Michael Feinstein. If you text me your email, I'll hook you up with him.
Oh, okay, cool.
He started the Green Party.
Okay. So I'd like to see I'd like to be a non-negotiable around the environment. That's what I'd like to see. I don't think we should do fracking. I don't think we should do any of that stuff. If it means it's going to hurt the earth, I'd like to see our relationship with the earth change. That's what I want to see. More than anything. If we start there, that's what we all have in common. It won't matter if we have racism or any of that. Not to say that's not important, but it won't matter if we're all dead. It won't matter.
Sure. Let me ask you two more questions, if I may.
Okay.
So Joseph Biden had his transition team announced a few months ago. And on his transition team for national security was the lawyer who got Gina Haspel out of torture charges. So Gina Haspel was the CIA director who tortured all the terrorists at Guantanamo Bay and then was promoted by Trump. The lawyer that got her off was Joe Biden's official transition director for military affairs. How do you feel about that?
I don't know all the details, so...
Is that a good thing that the guy who's the decent one has the lawyer who got the person off for terrorism and torture?
From what you just told me, it sounds terrible. Okay, from what you just told me,
Sure.
but I don't know all of the things.
Sure,
I really
fair enough,
can't
fair enough,
comment
fair
on
enough.
that.
What about this? Now, Donald Trump has done way more, and he has exacerbated it and used it as a threat and really done a number. But he didn't technically invent the policy of separating children from their parents or placing children in cages. It was the previous administration that Biden was part of. So now we're choosing the guy who invented separating children from their parents and putting them in cages versus the guy who really liked that policy.
Okay, so how do you know he invented it?
That's well documented. I can
Oh, it is?
email me. I can
Okay,
show it to you.
okay.
And I can show you the Gina Haskell lawyer thing.
Okay, well,
If those two things are true, that's
And-
good? Totally different than what Trump is?
no, it's disgusting.
What?
It's so funny. It's disgusting. That's the most disgusting thing that's happened.
But he's the decent guy. He's the decent one, right?
Really?
Trump's all
You're not
bad.
putting it to me, Marcus.
You're a professor.
I'm not a professor of political science.
You're a scholar and a thinker, and you're educated and confident, and you speak well on your feet.
Well,
I'm sorry for thinking
I
so
don't
highly
know-
of your...
I don't know what I think about that. I think it's awful. I think that is the one particular thing of separating families and even putting anyone in any fucking cage, excuse my language, any cages or camps or anything. It might as well be like in the 1940s or whatever. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's totally wrong. You can't
What-
treat people like that.
What about...
You're being treated.
What about...
Obama was behind, that's what I knew. I knew Obama was part of that.
Yeah, and Biden was right there with... I'll send you the documentation. But and then the military-industrial complex. What do you feel about the fact that a lot of Biden's advisors are Goldman Sachs executives? Good sign?
I don't like it. I didn't like
Obama did the same
it. I
thing.
know.
That's not okay?
No.
So you don't like super pro-military transition advisors, Goldman Sachs advisors, people being put in cages as an origination policy, and pro-fracking, but that's the decent guy.
That's not what's decent about him, obviously.
What? Just saying. I mean, I don't see these things mentioned in the news, and I'm like, Trump's the monster, and this is the decent guy. Decent men separate children from their parents.
No.
Decent men proponent fracking when California's burning down to the ground.
No.
Then why are we calling him decent?
Well, I don't even put that away.
I'm sorry. Fair enough. Well, we'll end it there.
We're gonna end it there.
I just want to add one more thing. So Joe Biden has a long history of groping women. Well documented. Now, I think victimizing women is wrong. And it was very difficult to explain to my niece how America voted for a guy who did that. And then I had to say, well, here's the decent guy, and ignore those 30 pictures of women going, with it. So, groper versus a fracker versus a fracker versus pro-military versus pro-Goldman Sachs versus pro-Goldman Sachs. That's the choices in America.
So you're making it sound as if we didn't have any choices to begin with.
No, Trump's a racist, horrible monster, and Biden isn't. But I see a lot of people going, Biden is everything good and right, and I'm
he's
like,
not the answer. He's not.
you didn't meet people at this protest today or Thursday then, because they're acting like he is.
Okay, well, I don't believe he's the answer, but I believe that he's better than what we have.
Oh, he's way better. Yeah, I hate Trump. Trump is a racist. Trump is a racist. Trump is a bigot. Horrible monster. There we go. Wrapped it up.
Okay, bye.
Bye.